I love being a coach in LA. I think I will say that America is behind the rest of the world, and it's well known, but it's fastly improving. The players, the talent level in LA is pretty incredible. I think over time, as structures start to get built and as very smart people in football start to come in more, I really think LA has the talent to compete. Like, Galaxy and LAFC are doing a really good job, and I think the academies are doing a really good job. I think being a coach personally, the experience is, we need to focus on development more. I think currently a lot of people are sensing that there is growth in it, and maybe they're looking at how can I grow with that as coaches, instead of looking at how can I service, and Javi's incredible at it, how can I service this growth? How can I create a structure so that these kids who do love the game, I can create environments where they're going to love it more, where they're going to be able to talk about football and be able to talk about their favorite team and being able to nurture the growth. And I think that's the next phase of this is, I believe that we have the talent in LA, but how can we set in motion the structures and set in motion similar to what I've done in Europe? And how can we really nurture these kids to be able to put all of their passion into it and not feel like they're kind of a cog in the wheel, which I do feel like currently there's an element of that. And obviously you being a parent, you can talk on that too, is like, how do we get it where, we want, for example, First Strike. I love that players come in and parents come in, and we sell on Instagram and we do these things and we want to show what we do. But when they come in the environment, we also want to make sure that that's a kind of sacred area where it's just pure development. And it doesn't feel like we're selling the kid at the pitch. It doesn't feel like, we always talk about together is I want players to come in and not feel like they're part of a Instagram story or not feel like they're part of a video, because they're not. They're in our environment now. It's an hour session, hour and a half session, 2-hour session. And I want you to feel like when you leave here, that you got something out of us, and that you almost drained me of all my knowledge. You drained me of all my wisdom in that moment. And if we can do that consistently, and as a community, we can do that, wow. I really feel like these kids are looking and longing for all the help. And they want people to go, they want a North Star. They want someone to say, hey, we got you. Come this way. We love this game too, and we care for you, and we want to nurture you. But yeah, overall, LA is incredible. As far as America goes, I think LA is the best. And I think that now there's people coming in that really, truly care. And now we have to just nurture that growth.
That's great. It's great to hear you talk about that and to hear about those kinds of training environments, because I think as a parent, especially in the LA area, it's really a kind of a tale of two cities. On one hand, and maybe it's multiple cities. I don't know if it's two cities, but I see incredible talent. I see incredibly talented kids at 100%. Young ages, in the middle ages, and even at older ages. Yeah. And it's so impressive to see how much talent is there. Yeah. And it's also, there's a ton of opportunities, right? There's so many clubs. There are now more coaches that can coach at the highest level, trainers that can really help kids. And to a certain extent, as a parent, you almost, it takes a little while to map out what everything looks like. And there's, I think, at the basic level, it takes a little while to map out just the leagues and the teams. And there's a lot of work and cognitive work that needs to be done to navigate your way as your kids become more competitive and become more hungry and start looking and having goals and things like that. So I think there's in the beginning, the world is very small, and then it sort of just keeps expanding. Yeah. And then you're sort of like, okay, I think I do understand how a lot of this works. Not completely, but at least kind of who the different and what the different organizations are. I think it's amazing to have that many opportunities to have for kids. And I think it's also amazing to have kids who have goals at really young ages as well, really big goals and the talent to back it up. And the resources to try to unlock all of that talent and move to higher levels. I think that's amazing. And, I think on the other hand, we also, all the kids play at different clubs and that sort of thing. And I think that is a really interesting dynamic, because the clubs are an entity, and then the kids are an entity. And I like to think in terms of the kids and how they develop, and how can we as a parent support their goal. And I think it sort of feels like there's this search for different environments that also can do that as a parent, as a family, we can be confident that this environment is really in service of the kids. And so I would say that my experience as a parent is constantly kind of trying to search for that. And you do see it. It mostly happens, I think, at the individual level. We've lucky enough to meet Javi, and as an individual, incredible. His organization's incredible. So you're like, okay, these guys are really working for kids. And even individual coaches within larger club structures that are really dedicated and really helping kids out. When you find them, you kind of want to hang on and grab them closely and work as much as you can with those folks. And so I think that's part of the experience of being a parent. I think also multifaceted.
We have to do, as coaches and people who are those individuals, we have to find a way also to bridge those gaps with each other, because I do feel that sometimes there can be a separator of clubs don't associate with private coaches, individual coaches, maybe because, we talked about this earlier, but I understand if I'm a club coach and I train a kid and work with a kid 4 or 5 times a week, and that kid improves, and there's a private coach who works with them once a week, and the private coach is telling everyone, look at what I've done, right? And not giving any credit to the club coach. But the club coach is a massive part of the development too. They should get to feel the plaudits. And sometimes club coaches also don't get to feel that. They almost get the brunt of all the problems, which I disagree with. I think that we have to find a way to unite the development structure, because everyone is important for a kid's life. And, it does take a village when it comes to this, when it comes to developing a professional player. But that kid needs to feel the tournament structures. They need to feel competition, right? I don't think they should be taking kids out of that. But they also need to feel that there is someone like myself or like Javi who really believes in them on an individual level, and they have that kind of humanistic connection that they can be with that person for 10, 8, 12 years. But then how do we make it where it doesn't feel like we're pulling from each other as coaches or as clubs or as entities or as these things? Yeah. And how do we make it feel like truly we're just in it for the kid, like for Ronnie? We're just trying to help Ronnie, and everything that we do from different angles is just to help him develop. So that's, I think, the next phase of it. And hopefully, as a community, we can get closer to that, and having these conversations is beautiful. That's what I feel. I feel like sometimes club coaches don't want to talk to me, right? We try and reach out, and sometimes they don't want to hear it because they feel like somehow we're taking some sort of energy from them, or we're trying to steal from them. And the truth is I know what our role is. As a club, as a team, individual coach, I know I'm just a supplement to you guys. Yeah. I'm just a supplement to the player. That's all it is. Just a person that maybe they can come talk to and when they need it, So I hope that's the future, and we're going to try and push for it. I know Javi's pushing for it too, but yeah. Is there anything as a parent that you feel is that you would like to see more of, or you want, more for Alistair in the sense of, from the club or from individual coaches or from anyone?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think yes, but I also think I'm agreeing with your point, which is when it feels like there are fiefdoms and everyone's trying to sort of, this is my territory, and it can become all-encompassing, where it almost feels like as a parent, people aren't necessarily satisfied with just getting a piece of your kid. And so even in the club model, right, it's all year long. It's 3-4 times a day, plus the weekend, couple times. And like you said, maybe they're not necessarily happy to collaborate with outside folks, when in fact, it would be great if it's easier to kind of say, admit that one particular organization or one particular interaction with the game isn't necessarily enough for the kids. So for example, we look at our club as a way to showcase where Alistair is right now. Immortals has been incredible for my son because he's been able to meet amazing people in soccer, amazing kids and peers and coaches and all kinds of amazing people. But that's more of like a socio-emotional type of engagement, as well as technical training and things like that. So that's been amazing. I think it's not necessarily that we're looking for more from one particular entity or more from one particular individual, but really a feeling of being able to access and engage with other folks without without feeling like we're, like a jaded organization. It's like, well, why are you working with them? Why are you working with them? Aren't I enough for your child?
Yeah.
And really, I'm sure, Ronnie, you'll probably say, maybe something similar. It's like, I think that kids need a lot of different things. They need different kinds of interactions with the game to keep it interesting, to develop in different kinds of ways. And we're, trying to pick and choose how we spend our limited time and resources.
Well said.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
being a player in LA is like very competitive. I feel like the environment is very competitive and like good intensity, I'm grateful for coaches like you and Javi, of course, like to push me to be better every day, because there's other competition out there working to be good and want to be at a professional level. And I feel like it's a little harder to get scouted in LA to a professional academy, let's say LAFC or LA Galaxy, because there's a lot of kids that are pretty good, like solid, that could be there, and you just have to, as a player, I feel like I have to push more to be better than those players to stand out on the field and get scouted to LAFC, LA Galaxy, or whatever God wants me to be. And yeah.
Ronnie, I've always thought of you as a player with like a really strong mentality, internal mentality that you push yourself. But I was curious, have there been different either teams, clubs, coaches, or trainers that have kind of worked with you in strengthening that mentality that we see on the field, how you like that help you continue to push yourself?
One coach that really stands out to me is Edwin. I don't know if you remember him. I would get mad. I would get mad at my teammates. They wouldn't pass the ball. We just would lose, and I would just be angry. But he'll talk to me, and he'll calm me down. He'd give me different perspectives to look at. Like, losing is not what matters. It's what matters is your development and how did you do individually. And I started thinking that, and I started being calmer. It's bad to be angry because it shows other people he's not disciplined. He's just not disciplined. And yeah. Like, Edwin has really helped me to control that anger and see soccer in a different perspective.
Shout out Edwin Rivas.
Yeah.
Love you, man. What a coach. One thing about that too is like recognizing that anger is just energy. And if as a player, if you can learn, all energy can be manipulated to how you want, whether it's sad, whether it's angry, whether it's happy. And those moments give you the best moments to funnel the emotion and the energy and push it into something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well said.
Thanks.
That does make sense, because you have like, there's players that play happy, players that play angry, players that play like more logically. And they all can achieve very high
100%.
levels using that,
100%.
channeling those emotions.
Like you watch Messi against Netherlands in the World Cup. He was playing angry, but he wasn't channeling it into craziness. He was channeling it into the game. He was using it because it's a resource. It's an energetic resource that you only get from that. So it's almost the greatest moment to refocus and perform if you can funnel the energy into something.
Use that to be better on
the
field, everything.
For sure, it's a blessing. It actually is, because the only way you're going to get that is through those extreme moments. And through the extreme moment, if you can learn to funnel it, well, now you have something that you can only get then. And so you have this like element that you can utilize. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I actually think it's tragic a little bit that money and the game are intertwined, but it's also unavoidable. It's the way our world works. We live in a capitalistic world. We live in a capitalistic economy. So money is going to enter the equation, but also this is supposed to be the simplest game. This is the game with one ball that you can get better, as we talked about before. It's a game that you can engage with one as a single individual and become really great, or with two people. So really, to take such a simple game and, at least in the American conception of it, involve money so intimately and in terms of improving yourself and improving the kids, I think it's a little bit tragic. And it does become, as a parent, it is a burden, right? Sure. If you want to play club soccer, you're going to be paying for the most part, unless you play with certain teams. But even if the tuition's covered, you have to cover vast amounts of territory. So there's travel, there's all kinds of expenses. And it does seem like, except for a very few select amount of opportunities that only appear at either the recreational level or at the professional academy level, there is all this money that is being spent for kids to have that experience of playing soccer. I remember when I grew up, I played for a club team, and I think the annual tuition was like $250. And, volunteer coaches, I had an ex-pro from Belgium who just volunteered for the love of the game. But now, and I think it's a double-edged sword, because now you have professional coaches who are here to who have the knowledge, who have the training, who have the commitment, can spend that time training the kids, developing the teams. That is certainly contributing to a much more sophisticated playing environment. And you see it, the kids at age 10 are way better than, technically and tactically than I was when I was growing up. So I think that's great, and it creates all these opportunities, but also because of that money factor, sometimes you're not necessarily sure whether you and your family and your player are there because of money or there because you deserve to be there, or that sort of thing. And also, there are a lot of folks who maybe don't necessarily have the same resources, who haven't been able to find their way through those pathways because of money. And for me, that's a little bit tragic.
Yeah, that's really tough. Yeah, it's a really good answer. Yeah, I think from a coaching side and from a development side, which is what I'm always going to look at, is, obviously I'm an individual trainer, and we charge for sessions, and it's at least very expensive, right? In Europe, there's a lot of fields that you can use. There's a lot of pitches you can use. It's much cheaper. So obviously that adjusts it. But I think on a development side, it comes into short-term and long-term, a short-term or long-term approach on development. And I think what money does for the most part is it creates a short-term outlook on development. Meaning, what is the goal of a European professional club? Well, the goal is to sell a player, pair a player and sell a player at 18, 19, 20 for 20, 30, 40, 50 million. You look at Benfica, you look at Sporting, you look at Ajax, you look at these clubs, they do it. It's amazing what they do, right? And so that's their goal. They're not really caring about whether that kid is ready at 10. They're really caring about, do I see something in this kid that I can develop? And when you look at it in those terms, when you look at it as an 8-year process, well, then you go, okay, maybe I play them center mid. If they're playing center back, okay, I'll play them center mid. They'll develop some skills. They've done, Ajax done it with De Ligt. They've done it with Frankie de Jong. They put Frankie de Jong center back because they didn't think he was aggressive enough. So they're doing this at 14, 15, 16 years old because they're looking at that long-term moment. And they're saying, if we lose this game, who cares? We don't care if we want to win, but if it's in the guise of development, pure development, well, we're going to take that long-term approach because we care if Frankie is ready at 19, 20. They can do that. They have financial backing, and they can do that because they know if we sell Frankie for 50 million, well, we get paid back, right? So there's that long-term approach. I think in America, the pay-to-play system creates a yearly or seasonally process where, let's say you have a coach, and a lot of coaches are amazing, right? There are a lot of amazing coaches, and let's say that coach wants to develop. You've got, let's say, 20 players in the team, and you say, okay, I want to develop playing out the back. The parents are paying, and some parents demand certain things. I want to win. I want to win tournaments. I don't like that my kid's losing. And let's say they're a high-level team. So the coach is trying to play out the back, and development is always going to be met with failure first. It's not successful. Development is failure first. So if I'm trying to play out the back and I'm 11 and 12, well, I'm going to miscue the pass. I might be a little bit scared when I receive the ball because I've never done this before, right? I might receive on the wrong foot, and that's going to take some time. Now, here's the issue is if those parents are paying and they want to see their kid win, and they say to the coach, look, coach, if we don't win, I'm pulling my kid. There's another team who's offering us this, and it's not the coach's fault, it's not the parents' fault, it's the system, it's the structure. We're going to pull our kid and we're going to go to this team that's winning. What's the coach going to do, right? Like, is the director going to come say to the coach, look, coach, there's 4 players leaving, but we trust you? If that happens, amazing, it's beautiful. Yeah. But now that coach has to find 4 more players. If the director comes to the coach and says, coach, there's 4 players leaving, that's going to be $12,000 to $15,000 for our club. You have to win.
Yeah.
Well, winning at 11, well, okay, we'll launch the ball up, we'll high press, we'll do these things, and we won't create these, movements and skills and build these things that it takes to develop. So now a coach that is coming in for the best intentions has been swallowed up by the structure, because the structure has, and it's not all the time, I'm not saying that. And it's, again, I want to stress this. I don't want all the coaches shouting at me in the comments. It's no one's fault, but it's the system. It's truly the system. It is the system, because these clubs, they try really hard and they have to pay their own way. They don't have the backing of Man City. They don't have the backing of Ajax. They don't have someone who's paying their way. So they have to care about the bottom line? Can we keep the lights on? Can we pay the refs? Can we pay the tournaments? Can we pay the kits? Can we do these things? And at the end of the day, if 4 players leave or 8 players leave or 15 players leave, well, that's tough for that club. So then what's the conversation, right? The conversation is, look, we got to win. Winning's great. Why not win, right? So I think that's where the issue lies, is when you take a long-term approach to development because you can, because the goal is to sell in the future. Well, everything now is through that lens, right? It's through that microscope. Well, we don't really care if we lose 1-0 right now. Did we play good? You know, Dinamo Zagreb have this amazing thing, and I think it's incredible. It's incredible. It's really amazing. Is Dinamo Zagreb up until 14, they don't talk about the score. So they give each position fundamentals. So in the game, let's say the left back. The left back has to make 3 or 4 overlaps. Now, if there's someone, you know, making sure that they're doing that, if all of the players in all their positions do their role and complete their fundamental, great job. We could lose 4-0. Incredible. If no one does it and we win, that's terrible. Because they understand in the future, if a left back makes 5 overlaps or 6 overlaps, well, they're going to get joy. They're going to get results at some point. And so if everyone's doing their role consistently, when they get to that final third, they're going to do it. The process creates the result, right? But that's really hard when, let's say you start doing that and let's say you start losing. Like, what's in America, pay to play? What's the narrative? I don't know. So it's tough. It's tough. That's my viewpoint on it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think money plays a big part. Like in LA, my perspective is there's amazing talent in small communities that don't have the funds to, let's say, pay for private training, pay for clubs, and they're just playing rec league because they don't have the fundamentals, but they do have the talent. And I just like feel bad for them, you know, because they want to be somewhere, they want to be something, and they just don't have the funds for it. And yeah, and I feel like it is a pay-to-play system here in the United States, because there's like guys playing $3,000 a year, $4,000 a year, $5,000 a year to be in a competitive team and to develop, and they get steps ahead of the people that are playing South Central League, the South Central or like Rec League. People who are paying get steps ahead of them, and that's why the people who are paying get ahead of them and so like end up being pro. And yeah.
It's like
It's
they
tough.
could just parachute into that level, whereas the other pathway gets kind of cut off. And yeah, it seems like there's really only a few teams that kind of you can get that pathway.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
And there's very like few tuitions in like MLS Next teams, EA teams, ECNL teams. There's very few tuitions that they give out. Like I thank Albion Los Angeles for giving me a tuition. I really thank them because it made me understand the game more and play versus competitive teams and make me be seen. From there, I got scouted to LA Galaxy, and I really appreciate them and thank them for like putting my name out there. Yeah.
Love that. Shout out Albion.
Yeah. I feel like what gave me the opportunity to get to Galaxy was these tournaments we're going to in the summer, showcasing our talents, you know, our players. Yeah, we did have to pay a little bit of money for them, you know, because they're very expensive to go to these tournaments. But National Premier Cup, a very great tournament. Mexican teams from Liga MX come here. Teams from across the states come here. And it's very competitive. And I felt like that tournament is really good, and I stood out because I was playing in Europe, Albion, and there were just many scouts, and I feel like I stood out, and I played how I was supposed to play. Up on the field, I just say to myself, play how I know how I should play, you know? I feel like I'm a technical player. I just put in my mind, like, give good passes, don't make any mistakes. I'm good enough to be here. I tell myself, I encourage myself every game, like, I'm good enough to be here, and yeah, I just try not to make as many mistakes, you know?
I've seen you play, and it's not just that you're a technical player that makes you stand out. Like somehow when I see you play, it's like there's a character or a force of will where you're willing the game, you're willing yourself on the game, right? You're trying to impose yourself and make something happen, take responsibility. So is that part of the talk or your self-talk before the game?
So,
how do you channel that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I just say to myself, oh, I can't like let them score on us. Like I always put all the like pressure on me, you know, because I feel like that makes me play better. Like I feel the team's on me, and every mistake is on me, and I just want to be a leader, and I like being a leader, you know? It's great.
Does it feel like pressure, or is something you actually really enjoy, taking that responsibility?
I feel like I really enjoy being a leader because I feel a part of the team. I feel like I'm a part of the team and I'm the engine of the team, and that's what makes me want to play like very good, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's amazing.